3 tips to step your game up in the sales negotiation to be able to get subject to investing deals. So, in other words, I'm going to share with you 3 tips on stepping your game for sales and negotiation to get massive, massive amount of subject to investing deals. Now, what is subject to investing? Let me define that and then I'll get into the tips. Okay. Subject to investing is a strategy that I teach at Mr. No Fluff that I focus on motivated sellers and they become my private bank. Therefore, there's a lot of benefits with this strategy. Number one, I don't have to use my own credit to buy a property. Number two, I can negotiate a non-recourse loan. Number three, I don't need to have all the cash. I don't need to have all the cash to buy the property because the seller is going to become my private bank. Okay. And number four, I don't have to pay all the junk fees that I normally pay when I go traditionally with the normal title company and a real estate agent. And there are so many other benefits out there, but just to keep it short, subject to investing is when a seller becomes my private bank and I don't have to go borrow money, use my credit, put a large down payment down, and so on. Now that we know what a subject to is, let's move into the 3 tips, okay, to step your sales game up to be able to close subject to investing deals, left and right. Now, before I do, I want to let you also know that if you're interested in joining our free Facebook groups, then go to community.mrnofluff.com and join the real estate discussions. Okay. Now let's dive in. Step number one. This is very, 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 very important. All these 3 things are very, very, very important. But step number one is you never want to clash with the seller's ego. You never want to do that. You never want to clash with them. Okay. I mean, that's so crucial. Um, some examples when real estate investors are trying to do sales negotiation, maybe the seller will say, well, you know what? My property is worth $200,000. And the investor says, no, sir, your house is not worth 200,000, is worth 150, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And that's the very first response. And we have to understand that to negotiate and get the deal, we have to be we cannot be on different sides of the tennis court. We have to be on the same side of the seller to do the transaction. Okay. Uh, And what that means is that we have to create a win-win situation where they win. And what are they trying to win? Well, if you're dealing with motivated sellers like I am, they have a problem and they want this problem to be solved. Okay. And so to create a win-win situation where they win and I win. And for me to do that, I have to become their friend. I have to have, sympathy and empathy. I have to understand what they're going through. I have to be able to put myself into their shoes, right? And the way to do that is not by arguing with them, not by, tell them, no, you're wrong. Okay. So one of the best ways that I diffuse situations like that when the seller tells me, hey, my house is worth $200,000 and maybe I've given them a cash offer of 90,000, okay, or 100,000. Instead of objecting to it, I agree with them. I say, hey, Mr. Seller, I understand. Okay, that's one word that I use that diffuses it because I understand it's not like saying, look, this is the seller side, this is my side. I understand is neutral, is in the zero. So it's not positive or negative, it's I understand. Or I can say, sure. Or I can say, hey, I totally understand. If I was in your shoes, I would feel the same exact way. And I've been in your shoes, right? And I give them an example when I sold my car or when I sold something that I liked a lot and I had to lose money on because that's what happened with depreciation. So I know what that feels like, right? So and my goal is to say, look, dude, this is you, this is me, and I'm just like you because I understand what it is. But then I would come back and explain to them, look, cash demands a discount. And I also let them know what business I am. I'm not the retail buyer. I'm not going to move in there. This is not my dream home. I'm not having my kids and my family and dogs move in there. It's not about that. For me, I'll buy the house sight unseen, and it's all about the numbers. And I could create different ways. If they don't want to sell it for that low price, that's where the subject to investing offer comes in because now I can pay them higher, maybe for their loan balance or maybe more, depends on the deal because it's still a win for me because I don't have to get a loan from the bank. I don't have to use my company EIN number. I don't have to use my social security. I don't have to use a large down payment. I don't have to pay for all that junk fees. I can get a non-recourse loan. So there's a lot of value for me in that. And I believe many other investors too. That's why, you know, seller financing, owner financing, subject to deals are, hot things because you don't have to use all your cash and nor does the investor have to go to the bank and say, can I please get my fourth rental, my fifth rental, please? So that eliminates that. Okay. So the very first rule, don't go against your ego. Very, very important because we all have egos, and even if we're wrong, we want to be right. And we when we plan our positioning, it's very hard to move it, and we don't want to be in situations where the sellers are planning their positioning, and now we're like trying to defend. We don't want to do that because there's no winning in defending. There's no winning in defending. Okay, in sales, the thing is, you're not gonna. Okay, let me define what a win-win is because many people don't know what a win-win is. Okay, if you're in my abundance club, if you're in my profit sharing, you know what a win-win is already. A win-win, it really translates into me not winning and the seller not winning. That's what's called a win-win. A win-win, no one wins. No one wins because if the seller won, then they would get exactly what they want. If I won, then I would get exactly what I want. And that's never going to happen. A win win is where I don't get everything I want and the seller doesn't get everything they want, but it's enough to get the deal done. It's enough for me to say, look, I wanted 10 things, but I only get five, or I only get six, or only get four, whatever is most important to me. And the seller wanted 10 things and they only get five, or they only get four, they only get six, but it's the most important things to them. So a win-win really means that no one wins. I don't win, they don't win, but it's enough to get the deal done, and that's what a true win-win is. Okay, so number one, never go against their ego, never, ever, ever. Number two, if you sells negotiation tips to get subject to investing deals. Okay, number two is never, never, never diss their property. Okay, again, like for example, you go in there and the house smells like shit. Never diss on that. Never use that as a negotiation tactic to try to bring down the price because that goes into rule number one. You're hurting someone's ego. Okay, so for example, if I go to the house and the house needs like a lot of repairs, right? And the seller, I'm not gonna start bashing them. For example, let's talk about a car because it's easier, right? I'm not gonna go. Let's say I'm trying to buy a car. I go there. The car has dents outside of it. I'm not gonna bash like, oh man, this is a shitty car, dude. Look at it, dude. The dents. Man, just like bashing it, bringing down someone else's property, someone else, something that they worked for, they use their life energy to buy, good or bad. That's just my opinions. Maybe the guy loves it with that dent. Maybe that dent because was there because he hit his dog and he killed it. And every time he sees that dent, he remembers that. He remembers the good times. And now I'm dissing on that dent. Well, that's not going to ever give me the deal, right? So when I negotiate, I'm not going to bring down their property ever, ever, ever. Okay, okay. I'm not gonna use that as to beat him up with it, right? I'll bring up repairs, but it's not gonna be back because of that dent, right? You know what I'm saying? Like I gotta do these repairs to bring it up to the market. But again, I never use it as a negative connotation. I never use it to beat him up with it, right? Because that breaks the rule number one, which is a domino effect. You never want to bring out someone's property just to as a negotiation tactic to get the deal. Never do that. There's other ways, which is to solve their problem. Okay, you want to leave the dent alone and solve that person's problem, because if you can solve their problem, they're gonna like you and go with you. So number one, never hurt their ego, because you're never gonna get a deal. Don't argue with them. Use neutral words like sure, okay, I understand. Okay. And if you really do understand, maybe you can explain where you were in a situation like that. Okay. Number two, never diss their property for a negotiation tactic. Okay, never do that. I know a lot of people tell you, oh yeah, and you see a lot of people, like if you try to sell something online, a lot of people will come out there and say, look, man, you're for example, you're trying to sell a knife. Oh, it has a lot of wear on it. You're trying to sell a car. It looks a little bad. You're trying to sell a house. They come and they attack your property. Never do it. That's amateur, and that's why majority of the herd does that. If you want great success, you don't diss their ego, you don't diss their property. There's other ways to, create a win-win to get the deal. Okay. Now, number three. Now, before I want to go to number three, I want to let you guys know that a quick story, right? When I was in high school, I used to be on the wrestling team as a freshman, and my coach was always putting me with state placers, like, like guys that place first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth in the state, right? I mean, this they beat up everyone, and I was just a new kid, right? And all the time I was wrestling, practicing, and just dying on my back every day on the mat at the practice. I'm always on my back all the time, and I'm just a freshman. I'm wrestling seniors, and they're just whipping my ass, and like literally. And I was always thinking, why does my coach always do that? Because I wanted to wrestle someone new, just like myself, right? And I didn't understand that. I didn't understand that till a little bit later, because what that allowed me to do was to learn, number one, a lot of skills from a lot of great people that had a lot of success, right? Because every one of these champs, they all had the foundation, but they specialize in one specific thing. For example, I had this champ that I wrestle with, and this guy was amazing on his hand control. Like, he would just he was like, we call him Spider Man. He had this hand control that he would grab your hand and you couldn't use your hands worth shit. Well, guess what? If you can't use your hands, you can't do no move. So he was like amazing. We had another guy. I mean, this guy just could just do single leg and double shoes like no one else. And I didn't understand why I was always like moving around, right? And only wrestling with the champ. So, but the thing that did is allow me to pick up great skills, great vision of each of these wrestlers. And at the same time, it just built this a massive neck muscle, because all day long I was on my back because all these guys are so good. But that what that translated into, when I got into the wrestling mat tournaments as a freshman, I was winning. And it also translated that no matter who I wrestled with like the number one state placer, number two, number three, whatever the story was. No one was ever able to pin me. Now, I got beaten a couple of times, but no one in my whole wrestling history I ever got pinned. And that's because thanks to these champs that always had me on my back. So not only did I learn from their different skill sets, how to be the Spider Man, how to do the takedowns, how to do X, Y, and Z, but also to have fight from your back every freaking day, which allowed me to never get pinned. Okay, never get pinned, and which allowed me to win the most achieved in a class of state placers. As a freshman, the most achieved. But what that taught me later is that it's so important to be around people that have already won and follow them and to be with them, because you can't really learn from books and videos. Now, every day after wrestling, I would used to go to practice and say, Coach, can I get the videos that you watch to train us? And my coach was cool and he would let me borrow it. But it was not the same as getting on the mat and going with those champs and being on my back, because they all had a different tactic. Okay, it was totally different. Now I learned from both, but this is why I've created the Abundance Club, where you can join and we can meet every Saturday right from your computer, where we can work I can learn about your business. Doesn't matter if you're in construction, you own a moving company, a brokerage firm, whatever. You're a real estate investor, you're a real estate agent, you own a brokerage. Doesn't matter. I can work with you direct, okay, learn from you, and then come up with an action plan to make it work. Because I'm one of the few people that I know in America that started as a refugee with $100 living in my car, never borrowed any money, to not even to this day. I'm willing to just tighten my belt and use creativity, imagination, and that's what I want to share with you because America is such a great country. So if you're interested in working with me direct, joining my Abundance Club. We meet every Saturday, 4 meetings a month for just $97 a month. You can try it right now for just $1. Okay. Now, the other news is don't forget to join our free Facebook groups, guys. Community.mrnofluff.com. It's totally for free. It's called the Real Estate Discussions. I'm there active. I want to help you out. Okay. Now, let's get back to the story. The third tip, okay, and this is so crucial. The third tip. All right. So I guys freestyle. I wanted to write it down so I don't forget because a lot of times I forget stuff. The third tip is very, very important because there are guys out there like, hey, come buy from me, come buy from me, come buy from me. I'll call you, I'll call you. Okay. I don't do that, right? What I do is educational. So when I meet a seller, I have something what I created called the Superman closing, okay, the superhero closing. And what that means is instead of me going out there and say, go buy from me, go buy from me, I educate the seller in all their options that I know of that's possible. And someone that's been doing it in this business, I know pretty much all their options. And a lot of the options I don't make any money, like zero zilch. But either way, I take my time and I educate them. And sometimes I even refer them out to, for example, if they need bankruptcy attorney, I refer them out to a bankruptcy. If they need a real estate agent, I'll refer them out to a go get a real estate agent. If they need property management, I'll refer them out. So I go down the pipeline with every option the seller has underneath the moons and the stars, and majority of it, I may not make any money, right? I may not make any money. But what that does is allows me and the seller to, create a win-win situation. Because instead of me selling them, I am educating them. And many of them will go the other way, right? They'll go use X vendor or B vendor or whatever. And I'm happy for that, because they needed help. I have it understanding of the business. And if I can help them, if they need a listing, they're not my audience. They'll go. But what that has allows me to do is to close a lot more deals because I'm not coming out as a pushy sales guy. I'm coming out as someone that wants to help them, even if I make money or not, because that's who I am. Okay. The other thing it does is that, let's say seller comes in and it says, look, Mike, I think my house is worth 200. And I said, look, man, I can only give you $98,000 cash, or I can give you closer to your retail price, to terms, to a subject to. And then they say, no, Mike, I think I'm just going to list it. I know the market's going to go down, but I think I'm going to list it. I said, okay, here's three real estate agents or brokers that, that I use, and they're pretty good, and I'll give them the options like flat fee MLS, and I educate them, and they can go use these companies or just go list someone else. But the benefit is that whenever they go list with one of these agents and their house doesn't sell 3 months, 6 months, guess who they remember? They remember me. Why? Well, first, I'm using the Alchemy Stones automation deals where we're doing the follow-ups and automation. I'm in front of them. Two, I was the good guy that told them, look, dude, go with this real estate agent or just go list it, because you may be able to sell it. Right. And I told them some tips on how to sell their homes faster because as an investor, I focus on selling homes fast. I don't want to hold on to it. So I try to help them out. And because of that seed that I put in there of giving, like loving versus like, come on, buy from here, right? Um, a lot of times it harvests for me, it fruits for me, and it's amazing that what you put out it is what comes back to you, right? So this is why it's so important to have massive lead production. If you guys need help with leads, right, leave a comment. I'll be happy to help you out, guys. I'm a master of lead production with, like, with what I call guerrilla marketing with no money all the way down to thousands of dollars in marketing budgets, wherever you fit in. If you need help, leave a comment. I'd love to help you out. But that's what the Alchemy Stones does is I show you 13 pawns where we automate these pawns of highly motivated sellers, so they're calling you versus you calling them, right? And then when they call you, they're already pre-sold because you've been in front of them, educating them, just like what I've just talked about. So if you want to do deals, right, automatically while you sleep in your pajamas, without having to cold call, without having to chase people down, without having to spend thousands of dollars in marketing, then I highly recommend downloading the Alchemy Stones. It's a 2 full day seminar. I charge $9,000 for when we do a live. You can download the film version, which is 2 days, for just $997. That's 89% off, guys. Unbelievable. Why am I doing it? In my opinion, 2020 is the best time to be a real estate investor, and I want you guys to win. Okay, when you win, make sure you message me and tell me your success stories because I love to hear it because it inspires me to be more giving. Right? I mean, it just makes me feel good, ladies and gentlemen. All right, if you have any questions, comment, leave it below. I'll take some of those questions right now. Let's see. Okay, I'm sorry if I butcher your name. Steban says, so my credit is not the best, and I want to buy a piece, tired of rent. Buy a piece. I totally understand that, and I totally understand that. Totally understand that. And my very first property was the strategy of finding a motivated seller. Okay, um, because I was tired of renting too. I was it was like 2004. I wanted to buy a market. I had cash. My credit was good. I actually never used credit, so I had great credit. However, the market was up, right? And I didn't want to buy. I wanted to wait because I knew it was going to crash. And then once it crashed, 2006, fourth quarter, 2007, you know, I wanted to buy a lot of properties besides just my own personal home. And I tried to get loans, and every bank that I went to, they said no because it was a meltdown. Everything was frozen. Real estate was just subprime, crazy. And even though I had business, uh, financial payments for many years, money in the bank for a lot. I could just buy a house cash. They would not lend. I went to bank to bank to bank. And that's why I realized, man, screw these fucking banks, right? Screw these fucking banks. Let me just find motivated sellers, right? And that's what I did. And the very first deal I did was property that I bought for myself and I moved into. And it was a beautiful home. It was like built in like, I can't, 2004, 2005. It was a 2 story. It had a pool. The seller had done, upgrades in the home. They put stone in there on the bottom. It was amazing. It had a game room, everything. I mean, and I bought the house pretty much for free for just $3,000 because the seller was going to a divorce and the wife had already left and the guy couldn't afford to make the monthly payments because his wife was a teacher, he worked for the city, and they needed both of their incomes to make the payments, and they were behind 3 payments or about to be 3 payments, or by the time I closed it was 3 payments, something like that. It was like 2 payments and it going, and by the time I closed it was like $3,000 I had to come up with or something like that. um, I think it was 2 payments, and by the time I moved into it was 3 payments. Anyways, around $3,000 roughly is what I had to pay to make the arrears because the guy was behind, and pay a closing cost, which was cost me like $1,500. So, anyways, it cost me less than what if I had to go rent a house, because if I had to rent a house, let's say it was $1,500, I had to pay $1,500 plus the security deposit of $1,500. That would have been 3,000. Again, this is in 2004. And I was paying $1,500 for a 1 bedroom loft, which is like in a really nice part of town. And I thought, man, I could have a pool, I could have 2 stories, two-car garage, game room. Doesn't The house is brand new, doesn't need anything. All I have to come up with just a few $1,000. And the way I found this seller is bandit signs. I put out bandit signs. The seller called me. I used my Ninja phone script, which you can download at mrnoflip.com, or join the Abundance Club and get a real special price on it. Anyways, I called him. He told me a story. We did the deal. I give him the offer. We did the deal. I moved into it, and I had a new home, my very first home. I didn't have to use a bank. I didn't have to pay all the money. Like the guy owed 100 and some change for this beautiful home. I didn't have to pay that loan off because he became my private bank. Uh, I lived in that property for 3, 4 years, and then I turned into a rental property, and I moved out, and that sucker made me like $600-700 a month cash flow for many years, which was awesome. And then I sold it, and put like almost 100K plus into my pocket, plus the cash flow that I got from it. And all in all, that I was in the property was like roughly, I would say, 3 to 10 grand, because after I owned it, I did some stuff to it, for my own personal use. So, but 3 to 10 grand to get 100K plus positive cash flow when I didn't have to get a bank loan or anything like that, I thought it was pretty decent, to pat my own back. I thought it was a pretty awesome deal. Okay. And I did few deals like that. I actually had multiple houses in that same zip code because I liked that zip code, because there was like Lockheed Martin right there, and there was a lot of jobs right there, and it was like the working class. So there was a lot of high demand. So it was a great rental. It was an appreciating area, appreciated. The renters paid off the debt. So yeah, it was an awesome deal. But to answer your question, man, my very first house was a subject to deal that I negotiated myself. But I know what it is to be a renter and want to have your own home, man. I totally understand that. All right. Steph says, subject to better than renting. For sure, man. Subject to is way better than renting. And here's a great thing, because with renting, you don't get any of your money back. And a subject to, this is your home. You're building equity. If I lived in it or if I rented it out, I'm still building equity, right? Now it's much better if it's a positive cash flow versus a liability. Because if I live in it, I got to pay for it. But there's ways to make that liability into an income producing assets, like for example, like renting out a room or doing one room Airbnb, or just renting out to one person or whatever. So there are ways to make your home into a positive passive income. For example, you can like grow your own vegetables in the bag, and now that's kind of like subsidizing your food, right? Your food costs. Or you can grow, believe it or not, just a little garden will give you so much that you can give to your friends and family for just for free, or donate, or feed the homeless, or even charge for it. But just simple ideas, where you can turn your home, you can get solar, and it feeds into the grid. You don't consume it, you get paid for it. So there's many different things you can do, with a house that you live into, or instead of making a liability, to have money coming in and live there for free, right? So there's a lot of opportunities in that as well. But of course, you got to sacrifice some of your privacy. All right. Any other questions, guys? Leave it. I'll be happy to answer for you. My man said, began buying silver, drop a nice amount on some lot. Gold is too much. Man, I like what he's saying, guys. Silver has just made a big move. I mean, it was just like hovering at um, $18. It's gone up like $1.30, $1.50, and real fast. So silver has making some moves. Uh, I'm more a fan of gold, but I still like silver. Like my holdings are 96% gold, 4% silver. Uh, I like silver as in like medicine, like silver water. Very very healthy. I give it to myself, to my kids, to my dog when we have colds and stuff. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not trying to tell you should do it, but it's very very good. Beats the doctor's pills, the chemical pills, right? However, I'm not really a big fan of silver myself. Yeah, gold is more expensive, but you've seen gold make moves and silver being the same. And I'm sure that silver will make a move, but if I had the option to buy gold or silver, me personally, not giving financial advice to anyone else, I'm going to go majority into gold versus silver, because that's what the play is. Even if I had to buy a little bit of gold. Now, I know that silver may shoot up and double and triple, and then you can convert into gold, all that stuff. That's awesome. But again, I'm a gold bug versus a silver, but I respect both of them versus fiat, but versus bank debt, right? I don't even like bank debt. But good answer, man. I appreciate you helping the other man out. All right, guys. If you have any questions, leave me a comment. Someone says, where can they join the Abundance Club? Well, abundance.mrnofluff.com. Your first week is just $1. If you'd like to stay longer, 97 bucks. change your life. That's all I got to say. All right. The Alchemy Stones, MrNoFluff.com. Guys, be your dreams. You live in the best country ever, America. And remember, we're in the best time ever, right? The best time. You have internet, you have social media, and we're seeing massive liquidations in prices now and coming up, massive motivated sellers in real estate, foreclosure tsunami coming. And this is the best time to be a real estate investor, not financial advice. This is my opinion. A lot of people thought 2016 was the best time, 2014. And I said, they were nuts, dude. The market was going up. Right? I never chase the high, right? I'm not going to go chase it when it's going high. Only when it's coming down. When everyone's running the other way, I'm willing to get in there. Guys, thanks for watching. Click the like button, share this message. Let me know, have you done your very first subject to deal below? I'm very interested. Have you done your very first subject to deal? See you later.